Welcome back. Thank you for joining me in the next video in this series. I have one more video. I believe it's going to be one more video after this. As I said before, I'm going to target more our videos that are about 5 minutes long rather than these types of videos that are a little bit, I think they're a little bit too complicated and they just go over things that there needs to be a lot more stepping stones to get to this point. But maybe some of the more experienced users can fill in the gaps. This is to document the making of Gods and Nemesis, the video game, in part, and also to give back something to the community. So what I plan on doing in this video is showing you the Blender model of one of the main characters. This is Eulangi. Looks like a mess right now, and I'll show you why in a second. And I'm going to import this into Torque, the game engine, and I'm going to show you how to create an animation, import it as a TS constructor, and show you the new animation that we're going to make. I need several animations yet for this model before I release the game, and one of those animations happens to be panting. So when they get tired, I want the character to pant, like, you know, to show that they're exhausted. So when they run out of stamina, that's when that will be triggered. But first off, we have to make the animation. So a lot of times you'll see that the skeleton will separate from the actual mesh. What you can do is go into object mode, and that kind of fixes that. They tend to separate a little bit. It doesn't hurt anything. But let me go ahead and put this model in that mode. And let's go ahead and select the armature, which bends the mesh, and hide that. And so that's what the character looks like. So you look like a mess before. A little bit more recognizable. He has strange muscle structures, you'll see that. And the texture, when you're in Blender, all the things over here that you would normally mess with to have a decent looking texture in the Blender engine. I let Torque take care of all of that, but this is the basic idea of the texture. It does not look good at all in Blender because I have not attached any type of shaders or anything inside of Blender. So it's just plain as it can get. So this is the base model, Eulangi. It's one of the creatures that you can choose. And I'm going to go ahead and save this as, before I start messing around with this, I always put it underscore or underline. And what are we going to call this? Panting. Let's make it simple. There you go. We can go ahead and start messing with this. So I'm going to hit Alt-H to bring back my mesh or the armature that I hid. And I'm going to start messing around with the armature first. Go into pose mode. And I had showed you how to attach a armature to a mesh in the prior videos. Hopefully this video will make sense up to the point that it's at. Let's see, what does this do? So he can, I don't know about that, but yeah, there we go. See, if you move like that, that looks like panting in a way. So I might use that bone. I might use this one. So his head. And just something simple. Just so that people notice that he's breathing harder, he or she. Let's go ahead and do that. So I think I'm going to choose, which one is that? That's the neck. And what do we choose down here? That's the pelvis that moves the entire model. I'll show you that. So it has control of the entire model. Every vertex is taken into account from that one. And let's go ahead and start with this one. So we go up here. Notice that down in the timeline below, I'm in, what is this called? Timeline? Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's called timeline. So you start at 0, and we're at rotation here. You hover over this area, hit I. So that puts let me move that. So that puts a little yellow mark down here in the timeline that says, hey, this bone has been marked so that we can start messing with it later. And let's go ahead and do that for the neck as well. All right. And I'm going to keep this animation to 30 frames. That seems to be pretty good. So I'm going to put the end at 30 down here. And notice that the light gray area it only accepts 0 through 30 as the frames. So let's go to the very beginning. That's important. So this green line is where you're at in the time or the animation. So this is going to be about 30 frames. Let's go up to 10. Okay. And we're going to hit the R key to rotate. That's pretty good. That should signify that he's breathing or he's moving. And then we go back up. Since we went up to 10 frames on the frame 10, we go ahead and hover over this rotation again and hit I, and that marks it. So now when we go back to 0, and then we go back to 10, it has saved that. And then I do another. Let's do, yeah, that's fine. So maybe in 5 more frames, he looks up and then let's go to abdomen. Come back a little bit. Now, I want to put them back to the original position, which is at frame 0. And I want it to be perfect, so I'm going to use this over here, dope sheet. So it shows you all of the bones that we're messing with. Okay, Shift D does that. Now, back to the way he was. So if that's repeating, that should look alright. So I would hit A and Shift D will duplicate the entire animation again. Thing is we don't need this part anymore because we have it right here. You can hit B for box select all the way down. Not sure why it's not selecting all of that entire line, but I'm going to fix that out. We don't need a duplicate of that. So let's get an idea of what this looks like. Maybe a little too much movement there. That's good. So we brought it to 60 frames. Let's see what that looks like. So we're going to go ahead and save that, and we're going to export it into your engine. And so you have to look around for that. This is Torque 3D, Projects, Gods and Nemesis, Demo, Game, Art, Shapes, and it is under Races. And we do not have this particular animation yet. Go ahead and put it in here. Alright, not sure why it's calling it that, so we'll have to rename it back to Painting. And that should be good. Export, Collada. Now we're done with that. Let's say this animation was perfect. It's definitely not perfect, but let's say pretend that it is. So we can go to the next part, which is the TS constructor. Okay, now I'm actually showing you the folders where we exported this animation at. And we exported it in animations here. Where are we? There it is. It's a DAE file or a Collada. And so we'll start messing with that. Now, the TS constructor, that's these .cs files for all these races you see in here. And so the Ulangi, we'll go ahead and open him up. And we're going to go ahead and put the animation we just made into the system. You can see all the animations that we have here already. And so I'm just going to go ahead and copy one of these lines so I don't have to type everything out. And this is Ulangi Panting. And it's going to be called Panting. It starts at sequence 0 and ends in -1. Well, that doesn't make sense for how many frames we have. We have 30 frames. But it's when you put a -1, it assumes that it's going to be the entire animation, and generally that is the case. In some instances, you'll see that I have a character where you can lay down, it would be 0, while you first put in the entire animation from 0 to -1, so the entire animation is loaded into the system. And then when you have different sequences, you might have lay number 2. In this case, he starts at frame 25, goes back to 0, so he lays down, and then lay 3 would be 12 to 25, which will allow the character to start at the proper frame and get back up in that particular case. Now, if you leave it just like this, it's going to be cyclic, which means once you play this animation, it'll play over and over and over again until you tell the animation to stop. In this particular case, I don't want that. There's actually very few animations that are cyclic. So once again, we have separate things here. We have triggers, which we might go over in later videos, but those are important for triggering the sound when they're walking. We have set ground speed for running, so if you change the speed of the character, it will alter the animation so it doesn't look too weird in accordance. And we have the cyclics, so we can go ahead and put this animation in. I like to copy and paste other stuff so I don't have to retype everything. It's probably a very bad habit from what I understand. But anyway, this is set sequence cyclic, and we want it as false. If you did not put this in, it assumes that it's cyclic. So now we get to take a look at our animation. We'll go ahead and save this. And I think that's it for this portion, this TS constructor. As you notice, you keep track of all the animations through this. It loads in. Generally, you just add DAE at the end. That makes it simple. So this is a separate data block instance. You don't want to name it the same thing as this. Just putting simply Ulangi, you want to put something at the end to distinguish it. Usually I put DAE, and that's good enough. And then it loads in all the animations all the way through. It has some variances for the animations, and you're set. Let's go ahead and open up Torque. Okay. We are in the world editor mode of Torque. That's why you get all these weird green markers and things like that. Of course, that would not be in the actual game when you're playing it. These are markers for when you're designing the level. And here's the character. It's kind of hard to see with this sphere in the way. That's where the character is loaded at. That's what that marker's for. And here is the character with the horns, or the antlers that they normally have. They have plasma blood, so they tend to glow. And so that's what that is all about. So let's go ahead and take a look at this character in the shape editor. Here he is. I'm going to take all this weird stuff out of here. All right. And as you notice, the shaders are applied, so he's glowing and he's looking pretty cool. It's got a nice sheen to him. They have golden scales, I had described in the books. So here we have, where is panting? Here on the side here, we have all of the animations that he has. He's got quite a few now. And here's panting. You notice that it stops as it's supposed to because it's non-cyclic. So we'll go ahead and go back to the beginning. That's backwards. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not going to use this animation. It does not look all that great. So I have some learning to do in regards to what it looks like when something pants appropriately. That doesn't look like panting too much. So I'm going to work on that. Looks more like he's coughing, so maybe that'll be useful for that. But that's how you load it into the TS constructor. You can actually go in here and load in the animations as well. This is an awesome tool. You have this shape editor and you're able to pull in the animations and do all the blending with a nice GUI interface. I'm used to not using this editor because it was a long learning curve for me to understand how everything worked. So I kind of worked behind the scenes going into the actual text files or the .cs files. I'm so used to doing it that way I don't even use the GUI anymore, except to look at the animation. Because this animation is not really attached to anything and will never play. So you have to actually write script to when that animation plays. So that's another entity altogether. Now, in the next video, what I plan on doing is going over the events that allows for an AI to function. And I probably will be using the animated spider to show you that. It's a simple form of artificial intelligence, and to go basically from point A to point B. And I'll show you the script system that I use for that, and hopefully they'll give you some ideas for your game. But thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you have any requests. Usually it takes me about 2 to 3 weeks before I have an opportunity to make another video. So I'm really concentrating on making the game available for Steam, because that had been greenlit. So it will take me a little bit of time to make the videos, but I will make them, and I appreciate you watching. So take care.